Blog Talk Radio.
What I've left behind here once again. I'm locked up in memories, they all intertwine. The memories in my mind. I know tomorrow, 'cause that dawn will come. You will never know just what you have done.
Good evening and welcome everybody to the NAASCA Stop Child Abuse Now radio show. That's Stop Child Abuse Now, which is abbreviated SCAN, S-C-A-N. And this is SCAN number 3037. And like all our shows, it'll be archived on our website. So if you miss part of it, you can always go back and listen again. The website I'm talking about is the NAASCA website. NAASCA stands for the National Association of Adult Survivors of Child Abuse. NAASCA is a nonprofit 501c3. And I'm going to read the mission statement of NAASCA. We have a single purpose at NAASCA: to address issues related to childhood abuse and trauma, including sexual assault, violent or physical abuse, emotional traumas, and neglect. And we do so with only two goals. One, educating the public, especially as related to helping society get over its taboo of discussing childhood sexual abuse, CSA. Presenting facts showing child abuse to be a pandemic worldwide problem that affects everyone. And two, offering hope and healing through numerous paths, providing many services to adult survivors of child abuse and information for anyone interested in the many issues involving prevention, intervention, and recovery. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have a question and answer discussion show using an open mic forum. And you are invited to call in and join us tonight. The call-in number is 646-595-211. Call in anytime during our show to become a participant in our conversation and to ask a question if you want to. So on our Survivor Professional Nights, we feature a co-host who will field topics brought to the episode by you, the listener. Tonight's special guest is Pastor Deborah, who grew up all over the world in a military family where her mother was mentally ill, and she is now a survivor professional. Living in Pensacola, Florida, she's trained in ministry, mental health, working with substance abuse, and is a trauma-informed social worker, all in one. She volunteers with many community organizations. Pastor Deborah says she can, quote, minister by text, phone, Skype, in person, and however the Lord directs her 24/7, unquote. She teaches that humans have three parts, being a spirit, soul, and the physical body, and believes that all three parts are important and that each area needs care. Okay, and with that, I will say hi, Pastor Deborah. I want to also say hi to our co-host, Darlene. She's here also. But I'm going to turn it over to you, Pastor Deborah, and tell us about your topic for tonight.
Hello, Miss Annie.
Hi. Yes.
Yeah, welcome. I prayed about what I should talk about, and what came up was, it came from a movie I was watching some time ago. It had to do with helping people. And this one person in it said that some people are blinded by the past, and therefore they cannot show a future to others. And sometimes when you've had some issues, in your life, whatever they are, a lot of times we stay living in that, and we stay in that identity. And we stay there. And for a lot of victims of sexual abuse, human trafficking, whatever it is, they stay there. And they're not able to show, say, other people or even see it themselves that there could be something different for themselves, or that there could be a different future for themselves other than what they've lived. And that's when you're in the helping profession, or you're an advocate for something with, say, child abuse, you've got to be able to show people there is a future. You can be different. The way you think you are now, the way, you believe you are, what happened to you. Yes, it happened. We're not going to deny that. And yes, it did bad things. And I guess one of the best ways I look at it is, if you broke your arm, however you broke your arm, you had a bad thing happen to your arm. It hurt. It wasn't what you wanted. It gets a cast on it, and then it takes time to heal. And usually, most of the time after you take your cast off, and I've never had a broken bone, the arm might have shrunk some of the muscle. It's weak, and it has to work out to get strong again. And so what's sad is our bones heal, but it doesn't seem like our mind, our feelings, our beliefs can get the same type of healing. So what I wanted to talk about is how that some people who have been sexually abused, not all of them, they tend to live in the past. And somebody who is going through it, who just came out of it, they need to see a future. That what they missed or what they couldn't do because of the abuse or something, but there is a future. And our job, we'll say, as advocates or helping people, is to show them there is a future. There's something different out there for them. Might take some work to get there. Like with, you say, a broken arm. You have to re-exercise it. Maybe add more protein to your diet. Maybe do some arm exercises to strengthen the muscles after it's been broken. And so that's what I wanted to bring up about some people live in the past. They're blinded by it. That's all they can see. And they can't see a future for themselves in any other way. So that was what I was going to talk about. But if you guys want to talk about something else, that's fine too. If you want to ask questions about anything, that's also fine. So I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I think that's a very wonderful topic. I think it's very important also. And I would like to comment on that topic. But before I do, I want to give the phone number again to anybody who wants to call in and address this idea of there is a future and how we need as advocates to let people know that. The phone number is 646-595-2118. Okay, and I wanted to address the idea of there is a future. I spent many years in an organization in which people who had survived childhood sexual abuse spoke with each other confidentially. And I remember clearly hearing someone who had already come a long way in recovery and was feeling much better. And I remember thinking, well, they can't really have been like I am. You know, they can't really have ever been as broken up and downhearted and destroyed as I am, because look at them now. I just didn't believe it. I did not believe it. But now I am that survivor who is doing well. And I like to be an example to other people that, yeah, you really can get through it and you can fight your way into a happier life. You really, really can. And that's what I'm going to say right now about that. And I'm going to ask Darlene if she would like to participate in this discussion. Darlene?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. One thing I want to comment about that is back when I first started the memories of the things happening, it seemed like it was too much because it seemed like so much information was trying to race through my brain. And so I really did not see a future. I really thought that it was darkness, and I was thinking, why am I still alive when all there is evil, darkness, despair, hate, all this other kind of bad stuff. Even though I was a Christian, I was already given up because it seemed like no matter who I told or trusted, like even my spouse, but the police wouldn't do that when my spouse beat me when I was remembering some of this stuff, and the church said it's best to let him kill me. So I was really in despair and giving up because it seemed like no matter where I went, you know, I was not getting the support I needed. And at that point, I was still blaming myself for what these perpetrators had done to me. So I was kind of like in a stigma point until I really finally our church started taking psychological so that I could go get psychological help. And it really helped me immensely when that happened, being able to go do that. And it took me a long time to be able to start putting the blame where it needed to be. And I think that once I started, one of the very first psychiatrists I saw had told me, I said, what's wrong with me? He said, what's not wrong with you? Well, everything has been done to you. And I was like, yeah, right. That made me feel worse, but it made me feel better in some ways, you know. But he says that he believed my story. And I says, why do you believe what I'm telling you? He says, because you answer back right away. So I can tell you're not lying. And that's what started my healing journey on the other, you know, being turned over to from the negative to the positive. Because I was finally believed by somebody, and that's what started it. And started where I was starting to see a shimmer of a light, you know what I mean, that I can get through it possibly. You know what I'm saying?
What's interesting
so I was getting unstuck because of that happening, so I was glad about that.
What's very interesting is most survivors, if they do go to a faith-based people, they usually end up with the pastor. He's a man. He hasn't been taught any of this, and he ain't going to talk about sex. That's a sort of a taboo subject. And he has no training, you know, in any of this. They don't get taught this, how to deal with sexual abuse survivors, how to deal with memory problems, how to deal with this. in the faith-based ministries. The pastor doesn't. The pastor's wife, the youth pastor, the children's pastors, about all they get is maybe some quick 3-hour thing. If they suspect it, they are to call the 1-800 abuse line and report it, and then they're done with it. Now, in the state of Florida, years and years ago, the psychologists wanted to protect the word counseling. So they went into state law and they said, if you're not a licensed counselor, social worker, psychologist, you cannot counsel people. So, Mr. Pastor, you didn't get trained in any of this. This is a mental health issue. All these memories, sexual abuse, it's a crime. You're dealing with thoughts and feelings and maybe disorders and mental health disorders and all kinds of stuff. You're not trained. And don't you dare counsel. You are to automatically refer them to a licensed counselor. You can refer them to a Christian counselor, and most of them are not pastors. They're just somebody that may be taught, and they become the priest and stuff. So there's not a lot of training at, we'll call it the bachelor's level in social work. I remember when I took graduate classes, we're going to learn about the antisocial personality, and we're going to learn about chemicals, and we're going to learn about biological changes, and we're going to learn about anxiety, and we're going to learn what chemicals go off, and what medication you're to take. So then what they would say to a survivor is, you got some stinking thinking. We got to do that with counseling. But if you'll notice now, so many things have changed. There's so much perversion. A man's not a man anymore. A man can be a woman. Okay? A woman can have the lower parts, but I'm a woman. A man can have a woman. Okay? So a lot of things have changed out there for the survivors because you don't know who the personal experiences of your therapist. And you definitely, what are you going to do to your pastor? There's a lot of authority. And a lot of them, this one great book I read years ago called Why Christians Can't Trust Psychology. Some lady was sitting in a church, and this pastor was preaching that Christ Jesus will help you with anything. She believed him. She made an appointment with the pastor and said, look, I'm schizophrenic. I've been in the psychiatric hospital. I got some issues. And you said Jesus would help me. He said, honey, I am not qualified. But you said he would, and you could, and you're his representative. He goes, I am not qualified. So that didn't look good for them, for the faith-based communities. So he went to a friend of his in the book who was a psychologist and said, you're right, buddy, you ain't trained. You can't help these people. And let's go talk to our friend, the psychiatrist. And he said, hey, neither one of you guys are qualified to work with these people. Only I am, the medical doctor, because this is a medical disease. And so there's a major pecking order and stuff in the helping professions. And sex is such a taboo subject. People, they want to talk about it. And it's a private matter. And it holds secrets. So if some bad things happen to you, you don't know where to go. You can't go to your parents. They won't believe because they don't talk about it. And the police just, a lot of them, they were doing bad stuff themselves. So the child gets trapped in a system where nobody talks. And yet there's a lot going on inside the feelings and the body, the chemicals and the things like that they don't understand. And so when they get older, and if they start seeking treatment or healing, a lot of your therapists are not trained. They can't show you. They're there just to pretty much get paid by the insurance companies. That's all. And if you go to a faith-based one, they don't have a lot of training. They'll refer it to you to a residential program where they have certified sex therapists, and they're going to talk to you, and they're going to get into the gritty details of how sex works and all that. And remember now, pedophilia, it's not called that anymore. It's called minor attraction. Okay? Homosexuality, Lamba, I don't know if you guys have studied Lamba, where boys, men love little boys, and they're going to show their love. That's not a disease. It's not a mental health problem. This is we're showing them we love them. In some cases of sexual abuse, they're getting you ready for the parlors, for the sex ranches, for the strip clubs. They're grooming you. They're getting you ready for the street, to be a streetwalker. Getting you ready. It's sort of like you an unprotected little thing, and we're getting you ready through training and education to work in that business out there. Make some money for some people. And so when it happens and you get further on in your healing and you become an advocate and you want to help people, you have to look at, well, who am I going to help? Those that have been abused? What about the mama who kind of knew about it and didn't do anything? Do you think she needs help? What about the abuser? Does he need help or her need help? Because women do abusing also. Remember the movie Sybil? Mama was doing all the abusing to that little girl. Not the dad. Mama was. And the whole town knew about it, and nobody did anything. So you have to learn that everybody's issues, everybody needs to see a future, have hope that, okay, something bad happened to you, broke your arm, you got sexually abused, but life is not over. And if you noticed, you ladies have all survived. Did you ever wonder how? Did you ever realize you survived? You didn't die of a heart attack? You didn't go so mentally crazy that you had to go and were locked up on pills and medication? You're here. Now you can reach back and say, there's a future. Okay, bad things happen to you. Okay, it just does. There's very few of us that get through life without something bad happening to us. But you're here now, and you can be a shining, bright light for that there's a future. So that's what I wanted to bring about, how we can do that more.
All right, how we can be the bright, shining light and show people that there is a future after child abuse. Thank you.
And you can,
I'm going to repeat. Oh, sorry?
Okay, go ahead. Do the number. Do the phone number.
Okay, the phone number for guests to call us and be part of this conversation is 646-595-2118. Please do call in. And Pastor Deborah, you were saying?
I forgot my thought there. What happens is advocates, it's, training to be an advocate. You have to know what to say, whether you're on the phone to somebody, in person. I think you're going to a human trafficking marathon or something, or what, I don't know exactly what it is. You have to know that people are listening, and you have to be able to learn how to talk, to say, don't be blinded by the past. Even though something bad happened to you. Okay? Some girls, they get date raped in college. They get under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and they're passed around. We had that case, what was it, with that gymnast, that doctor for the U.S. Olympic girls? They were getting sexually abused by a doctor. Okay? It happens. But you have to be able to show them life can go on. And one of the best movies to see that is The Three Faces of Eve. True story. And how this girl, she was traumatized by kissing her dead grandmother at 3 or 4. Now, that's not sexual abuse, but it's traumatizing. And she ended up forming a personality called Eve Black, one that was wild and crazy. When Eve White would get under stress, who was different. So she had different personalities. But once she got with a psychiatrist who loved her and believed in healing, she gave up her daughter. She stayed near the psychiatrist. She got divorced from her husband. And she found a man that said, I love you no matter what happened to you. We'll get through this. And Jane started coming up. And a new personality got formed that was probably who she was supposed to be. Another great movie to watch is one with Sean Connery and Tippi Hepburn, I think, called Marley. And it was about how a young little girl was sexually abused. Her mother was a prostitute. And she got married, but she couldn't consummate the sexual act. She couldn't do it. And she didn't know why. And her husband, who was Sean Connery, did know, and they went back and confronted her mother. And that's what broke the whatever it was blocking Marley from committing in the marriage to Sean Connery. There's a lot of true stories out there, a lot of wonderful healing stories about people who have issues in life, and you hear a lot of it, and how they came out of it. A lot of them found Christ, got in a good community, got a good loving partner, stayed in therapy. Some got into physical exercises. Some got into different forms of therapy. And they came out the other side. And I don't know if it's due to the laws of the state, or the criminal justice system. Because even though if your perpetrator gets arrested and they go to jail, that doesn't heal the issues that's going on the inside of a person. You might have a little bit of satisfaction with it, but it doesn't heal all the hurts and the wounds and the fears and the triggers, because he's locked up, and the main parents will believe you. So advocacy, and when you are seeking help, or say whatever time that is, a lot of people don't know how to talk to you and give you a hope and a future. And like if you go to foster care, the foster care parents will say, we love you so much, but the judicial system, their goal is to reunite the child with the parents or a cousin or an aunt, a family member, because they believe that is the best thing for the child. So they go over to foster care. The foster parents have no training. They're not therapists. They're just kind of keeping you out of a group home. And maybe the perpetrator's showing up, or a mother who got beat or something. And there's no therapy, and then, the court system decide you either go up for adoption, which is very rare, or you go to an aunt in another state. Okay, and their hands are washed of you. And you always wonder why so many of these people are committing horrible acts. A lot of times you'll hear, hey, the perpetrator started hurting animals, lighting fires. Parents just weren't there. And the signs, we see them in these school shooters, the signs were there, and nobody did anything. No counseling. Parents don't want to talk about it. So you have to recognize that there's a lot against you in healing, but if somebody really wants it, and they want to be healed, and they don't want to, get triggered and have all these memories come back, then that's the first step to show them a future. So I'll let you speak to that some, Annie, if you want to.
Thank you, Pastor Deborah. Wow, I wish that I had training on how to talk to survivors. I never had that kind of training. I probably know a lot about how to do it just based on my experience. But it would be cool if NAASCA would have like a class so that everybody could learn how to talk to survivors. That'd be cool.
Well, I think what NAASCA does is how they're sort of organized. From what I see, it's sort of a peer-to-peer support group.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're a peer talking to someone else that's about our level that had it go through, and we're just there to support you. And to encourage you, you know, yes, we're just one part of your healing. You know, go get some professional help or whatever you want. And so NAASCA's more set up, you know, like peer-to-peer. I've been sexually abused, and I can sit and I know what you're telling me, and I believe you. But having people, believe you can be, for some people, the first step. But then you've got a lot more steps to take. And a lot of times, you know, like I said, I don't know, you guys were probably very young back then. Back in the 80s, there was a lot of sexual abuse cases coming out. And they were going to therapists. And the therapist, and I wasn't in the system of mental health counseling at the time. The therapists were either bringing memories through hypnosis or through whatever they did, and the patient was remembering that it was their parents, their father, say, who sexually abused them, or their brother. And so the therapist, who probably had very little training in this, because you can get licensed and then take a 30-hour or 40-hour hypnosis class, and now you're qualified to hypnotize people. So the therapist must have been recommending to the clients to go sue your parents, for the abuse that's causing you problems now as an adult. And so that started happening, and the parents said, many of them rose up and they formed the false memory syndrome group, saying that, honey, therapist, you don't know what happened. We know our daughter or son. They're lying. We didn't do it, and we're going to sue you. You must have put those thoughts, those beliefs into our daughter or son, because we didn't do this, and we're taking you to court. Okay, we're going to sue you, therapist. And so the therapist backed off. Okay? And it was a powerful, powerful time where the parents will say, like if it was your father or brother or uncle, they rose up and they got lawyers. And they were pushing back against what the client will say, the abused one, was saying. And so the mental health world sort of, we backing away from that topic. We aren't recommending you go sue, you know, and you confront your parents on what they did and stuff like that. They just backed away from it. So I think a lot of your peer-to-peer support groups came up. Now, Bill, as you know, he got training in 12 steps, which is a support group, which is Christ-based, and it's men. And he said that really helped him because he had a mentor, somebody that was further along the path of healing. I think he said he got into drugs and alcohol. I'm not quite sure. And so a lot of people get into peer-to-peer support groups. Can it help? Sure. But if your peer is not way on down the road, like a lot of you ladies, you know, that are the people out here on NAASCA, then they get re-traumatized, and the person you're trying to help can't see the future because your life doesn't show it. You're still having issues. You're still in the support groups, you know. You're not advocating. And one of the things that everybody, even what I like about, say, if you get cancer. If you go to the MD Anderson Cancer Treatment Facility, you got 10,000 people helping you. Everybody is positive, motivated. They're encouraging. We're going to lick this. We're going to heal this. We got a bell that we're going to ring when you're a year out. We are on your team, okay, the medical community. And they are pushing you with encouragement, and they aren't quitting, and they are give you every kind of support system that you need, whether it's a social worker or a grief work, or you need somebody just to talk to on the phone. The doctors are positive. You don't get that in mental health counseling. You get one doctor, one psychiatrist, one psychologist, one social worker, and that's it. It's not a team approach. And so you don't get that powerful encouragement. And I like that. They show it, they're fighters, the cancer people. They're fighters for you. They've got beliefs, okay, you got to have chemotherapy. You lose your hair. We'll get you a wig. Okay, you got to come in and do that. That's okay. We're with you. We're not leaving you. We're here. We're educated people. We've got the knowledge of all the chemistry. We know what cancer is. And the cancer patient feels safe, that there's hope, there's healing. I got a team behind me. And when I can't do it, there's somebody there that'll pick me up. There's cancer support groups. People will come in my home and help me. All because I got cancer, a life-threatening disease. But when you're trying to get healed from sexual abuse, you get one person in your life, the therapist, that you see, every 2 weeks for 52 minutes? You go to a church maybe, and you have very little contact, no counseling because they can't legally do it. You have untrained women's ministries, untrained pastors. You don't want to talk. You don't want to embarrass yourself with your friends. You go to work. You don't want to talk about it. You got one person, your therapist. And it's so different when you have a whole team pulling for you. I just see the commercials on TV and, hey, I'd rather go to that cancer place than another one because they're doctors, they're nurses, they are positive, they're fighters. And I don't see that so much in mental health counseling or the faith-based community, that we got your back. We're going to be with you for the rest of your life, no matter how long it takes. I ain't going anywhere. You don't have any insurance? No problem. I'll see you. You call me 24/7 if you need it, even if it's 20 years down the road. I don't see that. Does that make sense? So advocacy and helping people to see a future is you do it through your words, you do it through your actions, and since sexual abuse is such a private, for a child, it's usually very private, and it's a secret. It's hard to, children want to obey, and they, don't want to displease the adults, so they don't tell. And so the person who's been abused stays in an isolated recovery time. And I think that's why the support groups like NAASCA are important, because people start talking. But then what happens is everybody goes, that's wonderful. You're telling your story. Okay, but now what? Now what? Where do I go from here? Okay, what does NAASCA do next? I've told my story. Do I write a book? Who do I go see? Who's going to follow me for 20, 30 years in my recovery? Who can I call? Is there a future for me, out there? And when troubled times come, is there special hotlines? that I can call besides NAASCA, or is there something? So being able through your voice and your words to show a future to people is very important. Okay? So I'll let you respond, Annie, or anybody else if they want to.
Thanks, Pastor Deborah. I will ask Darlene if she would like to respond to anything or ask any questions. Darlene?
Yes, recently, since I had dissociative identity disorder, I went back and started watching some of those movies again. I watched Sybil and I watched The Three Faces of Eve, and I still could not find that certain thing that I was looking for that I related to, right? So I started watching the one with Trudy Case, When the Rabbit Howls.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing, and when I went back and was watching that, you know, where they put the little girl down the well, that's the scene that I was looking for, because I remember that happening to me, but I didn't have the snakes coming down at me, but I was told that there's going to be snakes all at the side and everything. You know what I mean?
Do you know?
So,
okay. I'll tell you the purpose for that. The purpose for that event, going down a well, is to force you to disassociate, okay, into multiple parts, okay, so they can use you. Okay, and you either survive it by forming parts, or you die. And what they're doing is, it's done in the occult all the time. It's so that they can then program your parts to do certain things. And that is done. I've worked with people like that. Sometimes it's a well, sometimes it's a grave with snakes. It's you put in dark places, and they do it purposely. They want to create, they want you to split, okay? And they're testing to see if you will survive or die. If you survive, they know you've created a part that will survive in that. Then what they do, if they to continue further abuse, okay, they know that you ain't going to, huh?
I said, thank you for answering this.
Okay. It is a purposeful abuse, okay, to do certain things. Because what happens is they're looking, what they call for the people that are doing it, they're looking to see if you have the gift. Okay? And what that means is,
they already had me early in life, from 4-year-old, they already had me switching personalities for the child pornography stuff and stuff. So they already had me trained.
Yes,
I think it was basically to keep me scared to be under their whim, whatever they say, whatever they do, you know, me not to have my own thoughts, ideas, feelings, or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. And what happens is when you, a lot of family members, whether you know it or not, they work for business people. They have to produce children for child pornography, and they have to split the children. And so it is money-making. It is evil. But a lot of people don't realize a lot of families make a lot of money by selling their children, abusing their children, getting them ready for the system. We got to have them in the pimps. Need them on the streets. They need them in child pornography. They need them in adult porn. They need them to be call girls. And so where that starts...
I was the only one, though, in the whole entire, out of 13 kids and all, about 13 kids and all, I was the only one that they had in the child pornography stuff.
Okay, usually what happens in that case is the family, the parents, the father will make a deal with whoever's over him. Okay, we're going to have one. Okay, you're going to give us one. If you want to live, if you don't want us to kill all your kids, you give us one. You have to sacrifice one, and you were the sacrifice. Now, what did they have? You know, that's typical Okay, that is very typical. The parents will, you can see that early on in the Bible with Ruth. There was a famine, and the parents had too many kids. They sold her to the priest of Moloch to be raised up to be sacrificed. Kids have been sold for especially girls, okay, because girls can produce other children, and girls are used for what we call lust, sex, on men, but typically when you're one, you go, why me? Okay? The dad probably had to choose one. He had too many kids, and he probably sold you to them, and he got some money, and they did. Yes?
What they did with my case, if I could tell you, what they did with my case is my dad came from Germany when he was in the military. He had met my mom, and a sibling told me that he had a book on how to have sex with kids. So he started selling me from age 2 for other things, and they started pressing me at, things. But it was because they considered me cute. These guys considered me cute. So my family said, I can make a fast buck with that.
Yes. And so what you do is you look at it, it's money. It's children are used to make money. Children, and they know, and the CIA has been involved in a lot of this, mind control, mind programming. They used to do LSD, all kinds of things. But men, children have been in brothels. They have been the children of seizures. They have been abused because they're cute. They're innocent. They'll do whatever you want.
And we got another caller in here, too. I wanted to say Dr. Nancy Brown's in here with us as well.
Okay. So what happens is you were the one that they wanted. Your dad sold them for whatever, probably made money, got some, maybe he had, a lot of times, they got some issues. And they'll say, we won't prosecute, turn you in, we'll pay off your debts, you got some stuff, if you'll give us one of your kids. And so and you got picked, and they put you down the well, and they know, the ones that do that, they know how to split a child's personality. They know how to do that in the soul. The spirit does the work because it has the power you create to survive. And once that happens, when you get pulled up, they know what to do. They've been trained how to program that part. And then they'll threaten you. You don't want to go back in the well again, do you? No. Okay, then you do whatever, and you'll split and into that personality to whatever they want, and it's purposely done. And it's not anything that's not. It's something that is known when you study child abuse, MK Ultra. You study the occult. You study mind control, splitting. You study all of that. Now, that's not taught for mental health counseling. The psychologist will know. A psychiatrist will know about, they call it multiple personalities. They know about that if they got training. And now it's called dissociative identity disorder. Okay?
Right.
But your basic master's level counselor does not get any of that. Very few psychologists study that. Okay? They know it's there.
That's why they give us the wrong diagnosis and try to say schizophrenic or bipolar or something like that when you actually had DID. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it depends on what school, where you go to get your training. Remember, if every school is based on a particular, back when I was going through in the 70s, maybe you were a behavioralist. You would study B.F. Skinner. Okay? And he believed human beings were nothing more than animal. And you could train them, like you do a monkey or a dog with little pain or pleasure, little treats. And we were just animals to be trained. That was B.F. Skinner. Some people believe that. and they followed that, and all their training of childhood and teenagers, pain or pleasure. Then there was others, Carl Rogers, no, you're more of a thinking, you can figure this out. So some master's level schools, they have a certain viewpoint, and some of their stuff, DID is more at the psychiatry level and psychology level. And they kind of know what causes it. They do say it is a defense mechanism for your mind. So when you're under great stress and pressure and fear, you don't die of a heart attack. And your body is able to do it, your soul's able to do it, and your spirit's able to do it. And you will lose your memories because you won't remember anything but the fear. And there's been so many tests with CIA, government and stuff. If you look at the Manchurian Candidate movie with Frank Sinatra, trauma, abuse, drugs, you create people that get triggered. And the story was this lady who was a politician wanted an assassin. And all she had to do was show the Queen of Diamonds and then give an order to her son. And he got programmed, beaten, and abused. I think it was in China or North Korea. And most of the time he was a fun-loving person and had a job. But as soon as that queen, he played solitaire and the queen came up, that was his trigger. And the next words that came out of your mouth, he just followed them. Then he had no memory of what he did. And they tried to do that with, there was another great movie called Men Stare at Goats. They were trying to get men to do LSD, and they did a lot of that in the early years. They tried to make new kinds of soldiers, and then you study that movie. Then there's another one called Remote Viewing. During the Vietnam War, they would put some guys in rooms, and they'd leave their body spiritually. They'd travel to Vietnam, and they would get information, come back and draw a picture. And that was all done in the military. So this was, and a lot of that came out of Hitler's Germany, a lot of research that was done. And so a lot of people know how to abuse a child, okay, and they have training, and the child not remember it, block off the memories, close the doors. How do you think all these children in child pornography, in the movies, the girls that go and the boys that go to the strip joints, they just slip into that personality, and they come out and they don't know what to do. Okay, that's just, it's not taught to the pastors. It's not talked about in life coaching. It's not talked about in peer support. What do you do with a person who disassociates? Okay, how do you heal them? But if you're not even trained in that, and you don't know that's going on with children, from child abuse, then they never. I think another word in the mental health counseling, it would be called an inner child needs to be healed. And okay, there's some good books out there about that. And they would say, you've got one in there, and we got to talk to them. And we got to get some healing, to the inner child. I think John Bradshaw, I had to study all of this when I was thrown into this. And I had to understand how a person disassociates and why does that happen. And people lose time, and they don't have the memories of what happened. And when the memories start coming back, okay, they're not pretty if you don't know what to do with the memories. And
it's still scary to me whenever, I try to remember coming back out of that well, and it seems like there's a lot of pressure, and something stops it from showing me what happened coming, with them bringing me back up. It just stops right there because my head hurts so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's
there's a lot
really know. I don't really know what happened when I got back out of the well,
Well, what happens is when you get, there's a biological thing going on with all kinds of hormones, chemicals, adrenaline, cortisol, everything is okay. Fear is there, and that produces a lot of that. The soul part of it, there's something in the Bible, and it says, as you think in your heart, so you are. You can create. We all have it. I try to tell people. Some of us, when we go to work, we have a personality that we have at work with our coworkers. If you're a mother and you have children, you have a personality that works with your children. If you are going to go to the bedroom with your husband, or you have a personality. We're all capable of being many, but we're one. And I asked God years ago, how come there's all these people with multiple personalities? He said, because I am a multiple. I can be whatever I need to be for whatever situation. And he said, I gave that gift to all humanity. So a child gets put in a well, has the gift in their spirit to create whatever they need to create to stay alive. Some have a best friend that they talk to. Others become something else. Some excellent true story. And I had to go into the wells sort of by reading and studying. I had to understand it. This was not taught in mental health counseling. But God has a way of going in there and healing those personalities. He basically takes them away, and he heals whatever was there by taking it away. And you just go, if you have a memory, you don't really have it. But that's not taught in mental health counseling. There's not a lot of discussion in group therapy about it, and you can form a personality to be in the group therapy. And kids are so resilient, they'll go, I'll be whatever I need to be. I'm going to survive. If I need to be this, I'll survive with that. If I need to be that, I'll survive. If I need to be this and act that way, I'll survive. To survive, I'll do that. And that is, and so we have to be able to talk to people and say, yes, that happened. It is a gift. You're here. There's hope for a future. And I had to have belief that God would help people deal with this. And I saw it happen in my home. I worked with people from hardcore, multi-generational Satanism, and I took them in my home, and I saw the programs, the parts, pop in, pop out, all kinds of stuff, all sorts of ways. And I go, oh my goodness. I had to have a personal experience with it, and then I had to talk to God about how we're going to heal them. And he showed me how to do it. It was through deliverance work and prayer. And
at this time in the broadcast show for NAASCA, I told a story about Andrea called She's Mine. It was a powerful story, and it frightened many that were on the call. But it was also a light of hope for many others who were listening because of the spiritual nature of it for healing. NAASCA decided it was best for the hearers to delete that part. And what I did was I put it in at the end of the story so you can read it in the description box. It is a powerful deliverance story of Andrea, a young girl who lived with me and had multiple personalities, and who the psychological community was telling her it would take 6 or 7 years to integrate all of them into one personality and to deprogram her. The story is in the description box here on this video. You won't hear it on the NAASCA broadcast because they edited it out, but that's okay. I understand they were concerned for their audience and that maybe this was not the way that they would like to see healing promoted. But being a pastor and a spiritual worker, this did happen. It's a powerful story and very true. So please take a look in the description box and you will read the story that I've written out. Hopefully soon I will be able to have a video and I will tell the story. So I wanted to let you know that there is a story and how I was taught. And then we took a break, and Annie and the other host talked for a while. All right, you just keep listening to the rest of the NAASCA show. Bye, Pastor Deborah.
You mind if we take a break and we'll go to Annie and see if she got anything to say, and then maybe the other two new callers.
Yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much for all of the information you've given us. And I wanted to tell everyone that Carol Levine is on the line now. And I would ask Nancy, Dr. Nancy Brown, would you like to comment?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Definitely a lot of what was said by Pastor Deborah I was able to relate with. Right now, when it comes to mental health, people are quick to not look at the spiritual side of things. I was actually enjoying listening in for right now because the conversation had a couple of different topics and I came in a little late, but I was definitely able to relate and I agreed with a lot of what was said. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, I just hope that everybody at NAASCA will choose to be a voice for the future, for healing, and to help people see that there is a future and they can get help and they can get healed, and that through the many different aspects of NAASCA, whatever they have, that they don't have to continue to suffer, as they are, that there is people that love them and help them. And whatever way they find, there is hope and they can be better. And that's about all that, I think NAASCA does a really good job about that. And so that's my main thing, is that every voice, every time somebody comes on the show, should always be advocating for hope, for a future of healing, showing the way that, healing comes, that they're loved, that, bad things happened, but they don't have to stay in that stuff. They can come forth and sort of, be new and be healed and then help other people. So, all right, close it out, Annie.
Okay.
50 seconds.
Thank you, Pastor Deborah. Thank you for everything. Thank you to Darlene Clark, Dr. Nancy Brown, and to Carol Levine for all being on the panel tonight. I'm Annie Margis. I was one of your co-hosts tonight. And this is Scan Radio, episode 3037. And you can get that episode archived at the website NAASCA.org, NAASCA.org. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Hello, this is Pastor Deborah. And I wanted to let you know that there was a story that I did talk about and tell during this NAASCA Blog Talk Radio. But it was pretty powerful, and the enemies of freedom and deliverance didn't like it very much. And so it was edited out. But I have included the story in the description box for you to read. It is a true story, and it was called She's Mine, about this young girl named Andrea. And I didn't want the story to go unheard. You'll have to read it because I haven't made it a video yet. But it was edited out because I'm sure that the people that were doing the radio show were very frightened. It was very powerful. And so you can read it down in the description box. And you will know what the story was about, on how God trained me to heal people with dissociative identity disorder, and how He worked with people who have been severely sexually abused and had many, many parts within themselves. So I want you to look in the description box and read the story called She's Mine. Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you next month. All right, talk to you then. Bye-bye.